Yeah, it was this sheet that was twisted. And I had it tied on the edge of the bunks. And so all I had to do was slip down on the ground like this, and it would hang me. And so if they found me dead, I would be like this, dead. I would be like this. Because I've seen it happen so many times. Not hanging from the ceiling, but you can hang from like this. I used to get into fights a lot when I was a kid, with neighborhood kids. But my mom would always back me up. And I used to get picked on by older kids a lot, just because I think might have been the youngest or the littlest kid that was out there. So my mom would always come running out with whatever she had in her hand and back me up. And I remember that. So going to school, I never felt like I was accepted anywhere. I never felt that I had made any bonds or connections with anybody. I never had any friends, per se. I had lots of acquaintances, but I never had any friends. I surfed and I skated. That was my big thing. And I wasn't really good at either one of those. But I could stand behind a grocery store for 6 hours and jump off the loading dock with a skateboard all day and by myself. Or I can go to the ocean, and we had a house at the beach, and I'd surf from morning to night, and I'd just be out in the ocean or on the beach all day surfing. You know, my parents are asking me, what do you want to do? What's going on in your life? And I had no idea. And they eventually signed me up. They said, listen, we want you to go to the military. Graduated in June, and July, I was gone to the military. And then they sent me to Okinawa, Japan. And I remember as soon as the plane landed, my sponsor met me, took me straight to the bar. Like, bags were still in the car. He's like, hey, there's no drinking age here. That kind of grew, and it got big. And next thing I know, you know, we're 20, 30 people, guys in the military and women, girls, and it was drinking, sex, fighting. It was, but we had each other's back. And I look back at it now, and I was searching. I was looking for something, and I did 4 years of the military like that, and I got honorably discharged. Next thing I know, I'm working at a tattoo shop. I'm doing body piercing in the 90s. You know, I'm making $500, $600, $700 a day, piercing belly buttons, and drinking all night, partying all night, fighting all night. You know, I was a disabled veteran, so they're pumping me full of drugs. I'm going to counseling on a regular basis, and they're sending me to other counselors, and they're trying new prescription drugs, and then I'm drinking and self-medicating on top of what they're giving me. And it just the insanity of just doing the same thing, trying to get a different result. And that was my life, and that was my world. I remember going up and grabbing a microphone at a bar one time and saying, I retired. I can't live this life anymore. And I tried to get out of it, and I sold everything and moved across the country to California. Of course, what do you think happens? In 3 months, I'm right back to where I was before I moved. And I got to a point where I look back, it was 20 years of my adult life, from 18 to 38, where I was trying to find and figure out who I was and what was going on and what my identity was. And 20 years of living this life, trying to figure this out, I got to a point again where I was arrested for the 5th time. I was taken to the local jail, and I sat there in this jail cell, and I said, I can't go on anymore. And I created a noose sitting in this jail cell, and I wrote a letter to my son explaining that I'm better off not being in your life. And I tried to kill myself, and I remember sitting there trying to hang myself on this rope, this sheet thing, and the windows banging, and I remember, like, this was probably the most embarrassing part that I never felt so embarrassed before in my life as when I looked up and the guy was looking at me, and I knew who the guy was. And he told me, he goes, take that down, knock that off. I took the noose off, and he talked to me through the night, and as I talked through the night, I felt better. He told me, write a positive letter to your son. Don't write your son a death letter. Write your son a positive. Tell him, you know, how you love him and how you want to be a part of him and what you want to do. So they led me to a facility here where you can admit yourself. I guess I didn't know what that was, and they said, go ahead, give us your shoes and your belt. And like, I'm starting to do my belt, and I'm like, well, wait, what's going on? And they're like, well, you gotta admit yourself, and after 3 days of detox, we'll have a doctor come talk to you. And I said, I don't have 3 days. I said, I need to talk to someone now. And so at that point, I about lost it again in the office, and I just said, man, I said, I'm done. I said, I'm just gonna go. I'm gonna go end this right now. And I got in my car, and I had a gun, and I had a bat and a knife and a hammer. And I get in the car, I get a CD, and I put the CD in the car, and I'm driving from one side of town to the other side of town, and jamming out, and I'm crying, and I'm a mess, and I'm trying to build myself up to go do this. And all of a sudden, I hear this voice. This voice starts telling me, everything you know about God is a lie. Everything you know about Jesus is a lie. And then all of a sudden I start seeing where Jesus had been in my life and all these different situations and where he'd saved me from. It was wild. And I'm thinking that I'm tripping off of something. I'm not believing this is real. I read the Bible for 2 days straight. I read the Bible 10 hours until I passed out. And then the next day I woke up and I read the Bible again for 10 more hours. And I went back to work on like the third day, and they had me on restrictions at the prison, and I'm talking to people saying, do you know who Jesus is? Do you know who God is? Have you read the Bible? Do you guys go to church? And they were like, yeah, everybody I talked to said yes. And I said, well, you guys suck at this, dude. I said, how you've been working with me for this long, you've seen the issues and the trouble I've had, and no one's ever mentioned Jesus. No one ever mentioned, hey, why don't you come to church? Hey, maybe you need to change and start doing something different. And I said, why? What are you guys? Why haven't no one said this? And they're like, we were scared. We were scared to tell you anything because we didn't know what you're going to do to us. So I continued reading the Bible this week, and I had court coming up. It was 9 days from the time I got arrested, the time I got this Bible, to my court date. And I remember the night before my court, I was facing all these charges. I was facing all these accusations. I mean, horrible, horrible things. But I already been in front of this judge 10 times. And I looked at myself in the mirror before court the following day, and getting ready that night for bed. And I walked out of the shower, and I looked at myself, and I said, and I'm looking in the mirror, and I'm going, wow. I'm like, God, I said, I don't want my child to grow up like this. If you're for real, I want to know that you're for real, and I will live for you. I will dedicate myself to you. Everything I do will be for you and what this book says, if this is for real. So it was crazy. Next day I go to court, and man, I was sitting there, and I had my attorney, and I was just in this peace. It was total peace. And the judge looks at me and says, Mr. Tompkins, see this? This is you over the past 8 years of your son's life, 7 years of your son's life. You've been in here way too many times. And if you continue like this, your son's going to grow up to be like you. And I don't think you want your son to grow up to be like you. And he says, and I don't think you're guilty in this, but I'm going to give you a second chance. And I'm going to give you a chance, an opportunity right now to change your life and do something different. If not, if I see you back in here again, it's not going to be good for you. And man, I just started crying. I was like, wow. So I call Moses, and I said, I'm ready to give my life to the Lord now, Moses. I said, I'm ready. I said, I'm ready to do this. When I came up out of that water, I experienced something that I never experienced before. And it was exactly what I had been searching for my entire life. And it wasn't anything crazy or spiritual, but it was the love and the acceptance that I got from these people that had no idea who I was. And they just came to me, and they started talking to me, and they were encouraging me, and they were loving me. And I was like, wow. And from that time on, I just started going. I said, this is it. I'm dedicated. I started my life in ministry right there. And we just continued that, and it grew. We started out of our house, and then it grew out of our house, and then we just moved forward. We asked churches if we can use their churches because they're closed most of the time. Churches are closed more than they are open, you know? So we'd find an empty night and be like, hey, can we do this here? And then that started growing, and then we just continued this until here we are today. If you feel like you're stuck in a situation, or if you're stuck in a part of your life where you feel like there's no hope, hopelessness, it's amazing to see the change that can take place if you just invested minutes of your life into looking at what God has to say and what He has planned out for you in life.